Taylor Swift, caught out. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. The narcissist is a chameleon, presenting a veneer, a particular image to all of the people that the narcissist interacts with. Through compartmentalization, the narcissist may present as a family man, then the corporate raider at work, then the playboy when he's with his mates, that he may demonstrate him to be the sensitive husband to his wife. Different things to different people, and all easily achieved as a consequence of the fact that the narcissist has no central core, that the narcissist is a shapeshifter, presenting a particular image as suits in certain circumstances. The level of efficacy, of course, that the narcissist demonstrates with regard to this shape-shifting varies, dependent upon the type of narcissist that one is engaging with, and the actual characteristics and circumstances of that narcissist. For example, certain narcissists are able to portray a particular image because they actually have some degree of substance. For example, they are a talented sportsperson, or they are naturally very intelligent, and therefore it isn't a stretch for them to demonstrate that to other people. But for some narcissists, they will seek to portray themselves as very intelligent when they are not. In some instances, they will seek to portray themselves as an accomplished sportsperson when they are not. Some narcissists are reasonably good at doing this. They've undertaken the requisite amount of research and have the gift of the gab and know the terminology so that they are sufficiently able to pull the wool over the victim's eyes to do a passable impression of that accomplished sportsperson or very intelligent individual, and to the extent that the victim probes no further, and thus they are taken in. In some instances, the narcissist's ability to dupe in that regard is particularly accomplished, whereby, as a consequence of their natural chameleon-like abilities, the narcissism utilizes this in a way to pass themselves off as something that they are not in a very convincing manner, duping many people, and for a considerable period of time. In other instances, their image is not particularly good, but they're often given the benefit of the doubt that the victim is bowled over by other factors that they don't tend to probe too much. And in some instances, the veneer that is demonstrated is wafer thin, with the consequence that it can be punctured rather easily, and in no circumstances the narcissist risks exposure because they are not the thing that they are portraying themselves to be. In some instances, they might manage to smooth it over in a convincing way, or at least in a manner whereby the victim still gives them the benefit of the doubt. But there are occasions where the narcissist does become exposed, that the person is left thinking, you're not what you say that you are. That doesn't stack up. You're not the expert that you claim to be. And this can befall all category of narcissist. Because even with the more accomplished greater narcissist, they naturally will still embellish certain circumstances so they are not precisely as brilliant as they portray themselves to be. So for instance, you could have a greater narcissist who is a brilliant sports person, but they're not as intelligent as they like to portray themselves, that they're not as well read as they would like to portray themselves, that they're not as well travelled as they portray themselves. Yes, they are as wealthy as they portray. Yes, they are as famous as they portray. And so you have a mixture of factors where some are backed up by actual substance, but others either have no substance or more. Usually when it comes to a greater, there is some substance, but it is embellished upon. And we have an interesting example where Taylor Swift gets caught out in this regard. A subreddit called Travis and Taylor provided a piece of information as follows. I'll leave it up to you to determine the veracity of what is reported, but on the basis that it is accurate, it provides a useful instance of demonstrating how the narcissist operates by creating a particular image which in actual fact is just smoke and mirrors. It starts by stating, can Japanese breakfasts, Michelle Zauner, ask you a question, Taylor Swift. During a spot on her book tour for her best-selling memoir, Crying in H. Mart, Zauna shared a story of the drunken moment when she met Swift at a bar during a Grammys after party. Obviously, Swift was ordering a vodka Diet Coke, and Zauna felt compelled to ask her an important question that had been plaguing both Book Talk and Swift Talk. I'm assuming that those are TikTok sites or channels that discuss Taylor Swift and books. An author and Ernest Hemingway fan, Zauna asked Swift about a possible literary reference in her song Invisible String. Pausing there. Assuming that Swift doesn't know who Zauna is a non-intimate tertiary source who has appeared on Taylor Swift's radar. If she does know her, it's likely then she'll be a secondary source. But either way, she is an appliance. Let us assume she doesn't know her and she's a tertiary source. When she asks a question, that is a threat to control. Because whenever you ask a narcissist a question, you're threatening their control. Accomplished narcissists deal with it very easily by providing an answer, sometimes utilizing the truth, sometimes a half-truth, sometimes nowhere near the truth. Sometimes answering the question in a manner which is witty and entertaining and interesting, thus asserting control and drawing fuel and managing their facade. Accordingly, Zauna asks a question of Swift, but Swift's response left her with more questions than answers. "I've been reading a lot of Hemingway," Zauna said to moderator Kylie Reid as she recalled the moment with Swift. "In that song Invisible String, you say, 'Isn't it just so pretty to think?' Is that a Hemingway reference?" Thus, Taylor Swift is being asked about the origins of a phrase that she's utilizing in the lyrics to one of her songs. And this person queries, is this a Hemingway reference? This is a threat to control. It's challenge fuel because Zauna is responding to Swift, thus giving her fuel, but because she's asking her a question, it's a threat to control. Swift could answer by going, "Yes, you're absolutely right. Well spotted." And then in so doing would assert control over Zauna, and she may then respond pleased, giving Swift more fuel. It also enables her to maintain her facade. Or she could explain, "That's an interesting question. I hadn't realised that. I put it in because," and then provide an alternative explanation. "I hadn't realised that it was linked to Ernest Hemingway," and provide perhaps the truth, which again would undoubtedly please Zauna for having received that response. But in this instance, Zauna is clearly regarded as a nuisance by Taylor Swift, and her response is, "Okay, English major," and then walks off. Zauna explained that she was embarrassed by the interaction. Accordingly, Swift's response to this threat to control is to utilize a sarcastic put-down and then to exit. Thus, she asserts control by being unpleasant and then removing herself from the exchange. Now, interestingly, one of the commentators stated, yes, this was her reply because she has no idea where the line originally came from. Notice she never speaks about anything in detail. She uses so many unnecessary words and so much time to get to the point because she will continue to talk until she thinks she sounds smart. She loves to hear herself talk, but she's really cringy to listen to, especially when she thinks she's telling a funny joke. Somebody else adds, for someone who claims the title of English teacher and poet, where are the interviews of her explaining the literary and artistic influences behind her music in detail, and not about basic plot lines and aesthetics? Where is her book club list? Where does she ever go deep into anything except for the surface? Accordingly, these two commentators have called out a propensity of Taylor Swift to not provide detail, Vagueness is a manipulation that is utilised by narcissists. Accordingly, with Taylor Swift, we know that she can sing. We know that she can play musical instruments. We know that she can undertake some songwriting, although there are other people that do assist with that, both in terms of the music and the lyrics. And it shows that with regard to the process of the creation of her work, the image that is portrayed is not quite as it seems. In other words, there is embellishment on her part, because if you try to tie her down to some detail, you'll struggle to do so. Many people will give her a pass because they're fans of hers. Many people will give a pass because in effect they're intimidated by the level of her success, fame and wealth. But these individuals have seen through this aspect, whereby they have seen an instance where she's rude to somebody, demonstrating haughty and dismissive behaviour, and the necessity of a threat to control and the necessity of exhibiting a response to that perceived threat to control. And they understand why it's done, because she actually lacks the knowledge, because she portrays herself to be something more than she actually is, which is common across the board in relation to the narcissist. Thus, Taylor Swift gets caught out. Of course, Taylor Swift won't be concerning herself with this matter. It's a minor irrelevance to her. But it once again demonstrates that even with a greater narcissist, there will be instances where they could respond in a way that does lack charm, that they are haughty, they're dismissive, and that they put somebody down in order to nullify that threat to control. An interesting example showing how Taylor Swift has been caught out because she isn't all that she portrays herself to be. And certain people see that. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.